May, and I'm here with Lauren, and this is the second edition of Wanderlust, the online destination for women making a global impact. And talking about making a global impact, Lauren, you are one of my most heroes in this whole area. She runs Alternativ, which you want to explain a little bit about the business trainings and give us your short bio of Alternativ.
Sure. So Alternativ Global Entrepreneurs is a nonprofit, and we teach business all around the world and entrepreneurship to help people really provide for themselves through dignified work, help alleviate human trafficking, get people out of poverty, and really provide stable income and jobs for families.
I love it. We've been on 2 trips together.
Yes.
Nicaragua and Egypt was super fun.
Yeah.
Okay, and you have your master's in global finance, trade, economic integration.
That's right.
From the prestigious school of Denver University. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I miss it.
Did you go to school to make a global impact, or did going to school bring about the global impact?
Yeah, so I was waiting for an economics PhD. Is actually really what I wanted to study, and there aren't many programs available for that, and we were living in Monument, north of Colorado Springs, and I found this program, and it looked like exactly what I wanted to do, which is be able to impact, global economic issues, and it was only 2 years. So that seemed like a win-win. So I went specifically in order to be able to do economic development.
So you were thinking about doing your PhD. Is that still in the...
Yeah, I've decided 1 degree a decade is enough.
Okay.
Because I've got a daughter going to college this year, and so she gets this decade. Then when she's done, I can have a little turn, and then I've got a younger son that'll be going off too.
You don't want to go to college with her and be like, yeah, Mom showed up.
She's told me I'm not allowed to move in with her in her dorm. It's quite sad.
That is really sad. That would be
so
fun.
mean.
You could be the dorm mom.
No, I couldn't.
So I've heard that there is a Nobel Peace Prize winner he's known for microloans and stuff, which is pretty cool in our area of wine. Like meeting him, Mohammed Yunus, changed something about you getting this degree, and it kind of meshed and combined this passion. Yeah.
So I was studying econ in undergrad and took a economics of development course for like a sociology credit or something.
Easy peasy, right?
It's funny because maybe I shouldn't say this on camera. It's the only B I've ever gotten in an economics course, but
Lauren doesn't get B's.
No, Lauren likes
you must have been devastated.
It was not a pretty thing for me. It wasn't a good moment. But in that course was really my first exposure to like, oh, this is what the world looks like. This is like how blessed we are. I grew up north of Houston in a really comfortable community and a really great family, and didn't really know like what the rest of the world was looking like and living like, and that was my first exposure. And one of the things we talked about in there was microfinance. So in the early 2000s, it was still on the rise and hadn't really reached the peak that it would come to be and that everyone would know it to be. And he came through town and did a speech at, I think like the Marriott or someplace locally. And
cool.
And I remember back in the day when there was flip phones. Okay, so there were these flip phones, and if you wanted to take a picture, somebody had to hold it for you, and the camera was crappy. So, but that picture I cherished for a long time because I went through the line, got my picture, and was like, okay, that's, as the expression goes, that's when I drank the Kool-Aid, and was interested in changing economic outcomes at the country level and the community level from there on out. Before I had been studying medicine and wanted to be a doctor, and my kind of dream was like, I could use this on a trip and I could help treat people. And then I realized like, oh, I'm treating conditions that if we had better medical systems and countries had more wealth and ability to provide these things to their own citizens, like they wouldn't need us to come do that. So why don't we attack the underlying root cause of the problem instead of just treating symptoms?
I love that.
Anyway, so that's kind of where my life took a little bit of a veer off the path and went this direction when I was about 20. 20.
Yeah, and the motto of Alternativ is business can change the world.
Yeah,
right?
So business is better. We think business is better. We think charity doesn't end poverty, but business can.
Yeah, and that's how we kind of met too. So a lot of you guys know I fight human trafficking. I wrote the book Battle Cry, and the way I fight human trafficking is I really believe if we can empower these women to make money, they won't sell themselves or their kids. And
exactly
I
right.
had the same moment you did when I read 3 Cups of Tea.
Yeah.
And so I was fighting human trafficking. I'm reading this book, and I'm like, it comes down to the girls. We have to empower these women, and we can change villages. So
if you have no options and you have no opportunities, you can't make safe decisions, you can't finish your education, you can't provide for yourself or your family. So how do we do that? How do we address those causes that underlie all of these other symptoms, including trafficking and forced labor and all of those things that we're looking at around the world that are so gross? And the way that we do that is really, we think, through prosperity, through people having the opportunity to have work.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. And he was just talking about if you teach the girls, they'll stay in the village. And teach the next generations, where if you teach the men, they usually leave to the city and go make a better life for themselves. And we see that a lot of times in developing countries, and even here in America, we got the Second Wives Club.
And what's the stat? I think it's 90% or 90 cents on the dollar. If you give $1 for every dollar that a female earns, 90% of it stays within the family. So 90 cents of it goes back within the family, pays for things like education and food and housing. And something like 54%, I think, if you give $1 to a man, only 50 something cents stays in the family.
Yeah.
So
it's just crazy. And so I was just like, I came and I was like, I love what you're doing with the business trainings. You guys are combating this at the root, like helping women. So what we did in Nicaragua is we were working in the women's prison. A lot of women were in the prison because they had no other choice but to make bad choices. If it's up to your kid dying or you need money, like
if you can't eat,
your kids are starving, you're looking at them.
Passing drugs along the way seems like your only option.
Yeah, or they wash up on the beach and you're like, well, I kind of found this. And so giving more opportunities and options to them. But you also have a different approach about this, which I absolutely love, and we are completely aligned in mindset with this, which is why I think we've bonded so well too, was giving a man a fish.
Don't give a man a fish. Teach him how to fish, right?
Teach him how to fish, or let's just not go handouts.
Women, we can,
Yeah, and the other thing I love too is I know we haven't been in Africa together, but we've been separately, and that was when I first went, was my big aha moment, like, why are there so many organizations and nothing's happening, and people just go and do it for them? Like, they're just like, here, we have a better way. We know how to do this and go in.
Install this water pump.
We're in Mazunga. What is the wife? We know better, so we're just going to go fix this for you. And that's such a bad way, and I know you feel the same way. So do you want to, explain a little bit of how you approach things differently and why all those ways may not be the best way to fix world problems?
Yeah, so let's
change the world right now. We're going to tell you right here and now how you can solve all the world's problems the correct way.
By not thinking you can solve all the world's problems.
Number
one. Number one. Yeah. So something I think that I really love about you and admire about you is you have this amazing heart for women and for social justice and for the poor, and yet it extends beyond just having a heart for the poor, but having a mind for the poor. And so it's not good enough to just have a heart that says, I feel bad and I want to do something. But how we do these things really matters, and it really matters the approach we take, whether we're empowering a community or we're doing something for them which is actually quite disempowering and creates dependency and further need for more handouts. So a lot of our work, if you want to learn more about what we do, is really rooted in the philosophies behind the film Poverty, Inc. I think you can find that on Amazon or Netflix.
I'll put a link into it in this one, but it's also on YouTube.
It's a really good documentary on what's happened in the aid industry and how we've tried to help around the world, and actually what we've done as prosperous nations is just create more problems and keep people in poverty for longer than they need to be. And actually something like 600 million more people have been trapped in poverty since we started giving in the 90s at the height of our giving. So we know that what we're doing doesn't work.
Yeah.
We know that just giving aid doesn't work. We also, you have this book, When Helping Hurts. This is another really good starting point for anybody that wants to learn more about dependency and the issues that we create when we think we know best. But really, our philosophy is to come alongside local leaders, train them up, so that they can lead their community. They can teach the lessons, they can teach business, they know what their community needs. We're outsiders, we don't know what they need to say, hey, you need to like raise goats or paint beads or whatever other, make soap, you know, whatever those solutions are.
So along the lines of that, I just love, like, we're in Nicaragua and we're like, what do you do? And they're like, we have a bookstore. And we're like, okay, well, what do you do? Well, we have a bookstore. And their bookstores, by the way, are like convenience stores where you can buy like soap and toilet paper. It's like a little, what we call like a 7-Eleven or something, right? And
okay.
So, yeah, they're like bookstore, bookstore, bookstore. And so in your curriculum that you do, you're like, okay, so if so-and-so has a bookstore and there's another one,
Do we really
how
need
are
another?
you going, do we need another? What need do you need to fulfill in your community? And then they've never thought about stuff like this. And then you have a whole dream session in your curriculum too. I just loved and watching people's lights turn on, like, I can dream.
Yeah.
And it's like you have to give people permission to dream.
When
and
you've never been encouraged or empowered to dream and you're just trying to survive, especially for women who've no one's ever believed in them or told them that they can do things.
Yeah.
It's really like a life-changing mindset shift that happens. And business is just the conduit for that opportunity to be able to change lives and then communities and regions and states and nations all the way up. So instead of a top-down approach or a trickle-down approach, we really believe it's like a bottom-up approach.
Yeah, and I love that. It's just so cool watching people's lights just turn on. They're like, oh, well, and you'll see them sitting there and they're just kind of like, well, and you're like, and they're like, well, I kind of have this idea, and you're like, well, tell me about it. And it's the first time that anybody's ever expressed interest in them, and then watch them be like, well, my sister has this idea and it's really hard for her, so I think if we had this, it would make it easier for her. And you're like, yes, that's you fulfilling a need. And they just come to life, and just watching people be empowered is so much, it gives them dignity instead of being like a handout. I don't know, like when you just give something to somebody, I don't think they really feel empowered.
Yeah, and I think one of the problems that we see, because we partner with a lot of organizations and they're doing great things because they have great hearts for people. And so you'll see them come alongside and they'll say, you know, they're trying to sponsor a student through school or they're trying to help the family maybe in a small way. But really what makes a bigger impact, if you think about it, is if a family comes to you and instead of sponsoring, you know, one child to be able to go to school, you can sponsor the parents to be able to earn a living. That living then provides not just enough to be able to have all of the children in school and make a living, but like the mind shift and the mental state of the child growing up in that household is going to be completely different. They were not the one child that got sponsored out of 6 or 8 kids in a family. Instead, their parents actually were able to put them through school, or they weren't waiting in line for a handout and thinking that they're not good enough and they have to wait for this stranger to come and bring things. Instead, even if they're not, you know, wealthy by standards, our standards or theirs, just the ability to be able to provide for your family means that the children growing up in that environment know that they are capable and able, and that has a completely different mindset for the whole next generation. So it's really just a building process that will snowball and grow and grow and grow. So that's our hope with what we do, is really to launch, you know, successful families and successful businesses.
I love it. Yeah. Okay, so what is one of your favorite projects you have going on right now?
So I hear a rumor that one of our favorite partners from Uganda might be coming through and getting to be on this podcast too, so I won't go too far in depth.
Absolutely.
But we love what she does. And they've got a school that helps rescue girls that have been abused and victims of rape and incest on the streets of Kampala, and they bring them in, and we've got some incredible stories of success there. But the other place that I'm really excited to share about a lot these days is happening in Nepal. So we have a full-time business training center, New Venture Nepal partnership there. And what's really great about that is we're helping create an entire ecosystem around entrepreneurship. So they're training folks, they're identifying local women and local potential entrepreneurs, training them up in how to do that. And then they also have some incubation businesses, like if you want to start a coffee shop or beekeeping or bakery or online services, like different kinds of businesses that they're supporting there that also have kind of more intense mentorship model, and then connecting them throughout the community, and even bringing some of the products back to the States. So it's really great to see them be able to grow that and take a really holistic approach to helping people thrive, and not just training them and going, okay, good luck, but like, let's mentor, let's coach, let's talk about how it's working, how it's not, like what else do you need, how can we support you, what businesses are we seeing a need for in the community that we can also know how to launch successfully, and kind of maybe like impart a little franchise model on people, you know?
That's really incredible. Nepal is in so much in need. A lot of the women are struggling. They're debt bondage, sex trafficking, you name it, you can find it.
It's a tough part of the world.
It is, So you've got Nepal, you've got Africa, you've got things in Pakistan, Nicaragua, all over the world.
Yep.
But added to that, you're a mom. And you've got a life outside of all this, and then handling relationships, all this. So I guess, do you ever get the question, like, how do you do it all?
So my answer is poorly and slowly.
But you're not perfect.
No, this is totally perfect. I've got this. And I also...
Me too. I never have a bad day. Ever.
Cheers.
And relationships, like how do you change the world while you're being a mom, while you're handling life relationships? How do you manage it all?
Slowly. Not poorly.
Not as well as
I'm tears.
Cheers.
We got this. So, I also teach full-time at a university in Colorado Springs. I'm a professor of practice there. And so I juggle a lot. I've had to learn how to delegate a lot, and that some things are not important. But the things that are important to me are trying to be home when my kids are home and making sure I'm there for them. Like I said, my oldest is off to college this year, so this is going to be we're not going to talk about it. It's not till next week, so we'll just keep it together for one more week, and then I have no idea. But my youngest is going into 5th grade. And he rides the bus, which is great, which gives me time to be able to teach during the day, to make sure that our partners are supported around the world in their programs. We use interns a lot. I try and delegate a lot. I don't know.
Delegation's good. Like, how does she do it? She delegates. I bet her kids do chores too.
Yeah, because that's where I was going. I don't really clean. I don't really cook. Like, you know, y'all are welcome anytime. My house is always presentable. But I'm just saying, it's not like that's my main area of focus. I'm really trying to teach them, you know, what the world's about and how to serve their community. And and I'm also a Rotarian. Like, I like to be busy, you guys. So I'm also a Rotarian.
Broadmoor, right?
The Broadmoor Rotary Club. And we do a lot of community service, and we're the largest philanthropic service organization around the world. So
it's an amazing community.
Yeah, just being surrounded by like-minded people, though, is really... Finding your tribe, I think, might be the key to being able to get it all done, because you're surrounded by people who also care and are going in the same direction you are. So
I think it's also like finding your tribe is not surrounding yourself with women who don't maybe hold your values or put you down for, how could you go overseas and your kids are going to miss you and da-da-da. Right? You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that's why we vibe so well together.
I won't even tell them my kids, but sometimes I come home and... things happen while you're gone, and it's okay. They'll be okay. Everybody's fine. The house didn't burn down. But I do think, like, finding your tribe of who can support you, that's one of the things I am just incredibly blessed to have women like Amanda in my life, and women that when you go, oh my gosh, I'm falling apart and can't do this anymore, they show up with like tacos and tequila, and then you move on, and it's great.
Amazing.
I know, right? Right?
And so you're also a woman of faith. And so how has that impacted what you do? Does it impact? Does it have...
I think in this
space together, or do you keep them separate?
I think in this space it's actually like quite difficult, because The faith community has a lot to offer, and they have a great heart, and they believe in serving others. But where it can come into conflict is, how do we do those things? How do we do those things well? And as an academic and as like a researcher at heart and those kinds of things, I really want to be sure that I'm doing things the right way. You know, you gotta step up and you gotta do the right way. So sometimes that can be a bit of a conflict because for me, living my faith and walking my faith means being the hands and feet. It doesn't mean that I don't necessarily feel called the way that others are to evangelism. I feel called to serve. So I've done foster care. I've done other kinds of like community service things, and those are all motivated by my faith, and they're rooted in who I am in my faith. But the way that I express that is through love of others in very practical ways. And so I respect those that are called differently and that are in different ministries and do different things. I just know that, like, for me to feel most at home in my own calling, like, I feel very much like I've been given a specific skill set that not everybody has and has the ability and opportunity to even pursue, right? Because I think a certain amount of privilege that allows us to be even able to pursue these things, whether or not we feel compelled by them.
Well, I think that is amazing because I think a lot of people feel like, oh, I have this gifting, I want to use it for God, but they don't feel called with ministry, and they're not sure how to bond them together. And I just think that's such a great way. Like, you can serve and be a woman of faith and love Jesus with all your heart and go for this, but what you do, like, is your job and stuff. Is service oriented in the way that it needs to happen.
Yeah, and we're super lucky. So at Alternativ, we partner with secular and faith-based organizations and churches and all kinds of people doing work around the world. As long as they're committed to long-term community development, then we're committed to helping them do that. We have faith-based curriculum and secular curriculum. I get to work with all different types of people. Our own organization, however, is never gonna say, like, we can't serve you because you're a different religion, or we can't serve you because you're non-religious or a local religion. So that's how we come into play. Is like we're gonna serve you regardless, and you don't have to raise your hand or make a confession or do any of those things in order to get services. So that's just philosophically kind of what I've built into the culture.
I love it.
Because,
I think it's
that's
great.
where I am.
I think it's great because it opens up your heart to the world, and you're just able to serve everybody and operate within your gifts. I just think a lot of people get stuck, like, if they're not on a podium, or if they're not doing women's ministry, then I feel like a lot of women get stuck, and there's no place in the world for me. And I think you're a great role model.
Most of your people that follow ladies, listen, ladies, the world needs you. Like, we need you in your families, we need you in your communities, we need you in the world, we need your gifts, we need your talents. So whatever you're doing, there's a place for you in a way that you're making an impact. And so it doesn't matter that I'm doing things in different communities around the world. You might be like doing things in your own community, in your own neighborhood, or wherever it is, but all of us working together is how we ultimately change the world.
I love it.
So.
And it's not, we're going to go over just a little bit, but I have one more question for you. It's not on my list. It's okay. It's not biggie. But you also are not a nonprofit anymore. You're a B Corp.
We're not a B Corp yet. We're moving that way.
You're moving that way. Okay. And so I think that's really important too, because you want to model what you're teaching.
That's right.
Could you expand on that a little bit?
Sure.
Because I think this is that's maybe in the last 8 years or so where people are saying, oh, I want to run a nonprofit, but realizing there's so much red tape and they can't do what they do, and then they're suffering in poverty themselves, and so they're like,
and there's this issue
mentality with it, right?
With toxic charity, there can be an issue where we believe that the pie is only this big and we're in competition for dollars and grants and funding.
Oh, I
but
see.
The
it
truth
in
of
the
the matter
trafficking
is,
realm.
And the truth of the matter is, like, we can all grow. The pie can get bigger. And so one of the things that we're trying to do is we believe that we create value through our products. We have communities that we invest in long term, and then we also have communities where if you're just looking for materials and you already have programs and staff, you can run our training with your own staff. You don't necessarily need us for that, and that's how we fund our ongoing continuing efforts to like grow, provide new training, develop new materials, and do these kinds of things. It's like we actually operate like a business, and we think, you know what, if we're teaching people how to operate like a business and we're teaching them how to be successful, provide value to their community, and that their value that they provide is also financially valuable and they should get a financial return for the value that they're creating, then we believe we should be doing that too. So our model is a model that is creating self-sustainability, so that we don't have to constantly going back to donors and being like, okay, well, we need your generosity to support this project and this team and this program. We want to be self-sustaining ourselves, so that we can just continue to operate and grow and not have to divide our time between, well, how do we go out and tell people about this and raise money, but we're supposed to be over here in Nicaragua doing this thing, and we're supposed to be over here in Thailand doing this thing, and there's just not enough staff time or hours to do it all. So that's our goal.
And then all the donations go to better use too. So when people do give, that dollar goes way farther. You're able to do much more.
Right. So those go directly into our programs that we're working with long term. So in Pakistan, in Uganda, in Nepal, and places like that, where we know we're following, we're tracking the data, we're seeing what's happening, and we're having our hand closely related to those projects. So
I love that. And so there's so many different opportunities for you guys to make a difference out there. And so I just wanted to bring that one up because you just are across the board just doing this in such a great way that's really impacting for long-term sustainability. And so if people are inspired by our conversation, hopefully, and they want to reach out to you, what is the best way? Is it through the alternativproject.org website?
Yeah, that's perfect. So Alternativ Project, and if you say it with a little French accent so it sounds a little fancier, that's how you'll be able to find the website. Alternativ. So there's no E on the end of alternative. It's an alternative spelling.
Hey, like Spanish, the E is silent.
That's right. Alternativproject.org. Or you can find us on Facebook. We've got Facebook, Instagram, all those kinds of channels, LinkedIn.
I'll put all of it in the links below. So plenty of opportunity to reach out. Lauren's such a giving person. I'm sure she won't mind any questions. If you know of an organization that could use some business training or connections, we love all of that.
Yeah, if anybody knows, of an organization that's working in a community and would like to create long-term sustainable lasting impact in that area, then for sure put us in touch, reach out. And I'm going to cut you off because I'm going to say thanks to Amanda for having me on and for all of her service. She's been a really great member of the board, really supporting what we're doing, having a great heart for women, and you guys are so blessed to have her in your life and on your screen.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I just love and adore you.
Same.
You're going to cut this off before we get teary-eyed.
Okay.
Cheers to all the women around the world, because we believe in you. We believe in your dreams. And here at Wanderbless, I definitely believe that you can spread your love and that this world needs it. And so you guys go out, be great, have an amazing day, and we're here for you.